there are all sorts of difficulties in the world. And we started with people learning to use tech. And I think one of the difficulties was you make a mistake and you get an error message. The analogy I gave was if you produce a tech document and it doesn't come out, nobody will say to you, you need to understand PDF before you can produce this document. Whereas if you write a tech document and they say, oh, you have to understand LaTeX internals before you can run this, you think, well, what's going on here? So having that sort of problem solved would be quite useful. Regarding the profusion of languages, there's something whose name I've forgotten. It's something like standard aerospace English, and it's used very, very widely, for example, by air traffic controllers and pilots. And they avoid words that are ambiguous, or rather, if a word is ambiguous, they will use it in one setting only. So oil can mean the engine is running out of oil, or it can mean you have to oil the hinge. It can be a substance or it can be a verb. Close could mean that aeroplane is close to us, or it could mean, did you close the door? So there's sort of standard vocabulary that is sort of part of the business. And I think one of the motivations for this was that a number of accidents have occurred because people for whom English is neither of their first language are communicating in English, and there's ambiguities and problems occurring. And another thing is that the air accident investigations have made an enormous impact on making air travel safe. And they are real works of art, if you like. Well, when I say art, I mean art as in skill and so forth. I happened to come across one for a light plane that took off, and it's a four-seater single engine plane. It took off, and there has a luggage hatch behind the cockpit, and the luggage hatch flew open and impacted onto the tailplane. And they did an accident report on that, and nobody was hurt, and the pilot had done some preparatory training just for incidents, and managed to bring the plane down even though the handling was disturbed. And they went down and they sort of did a standard report on it. And I was sort of very impressed at how a small thing like that is dealt with some diligence. And without coming to a definite conclusion, it seemed that part of the latching mechanism had been removed so that the plane could be painted and then not reinstalled correctly. That seemed to be one of the causes of the accident. And one of the things I'd like to see is some sort of finding the root causes of some of the problems we have and fixing them. And Don Knuth kept an error log of tech and wrote a couple of papers analyzing the errors of tech, and praised that practice as a way of improving the quality of software. So the problems that Kelly and I were talking about at the beginning of this conversation about reporting errors and getting help and that sort of thing, from time to time, the difficulties we have should be looked at in a dispassionate and blame-free way. The air accident investigations always have, I think, an engineer and a pilot and I think somebody who knows about weather. I think they have a sort of standard crew of investigating these things. And the human factors are really important for accidents involving complicated technology. So what happens now is that co-pilots and engineers are trained to contradict the authority of the captain, because the world's worst disaster, air disaster in the Canary Islands, the cockpit recorder records that the engineer voiced doubt that the plane had been cleared to take off, which was correct. But the pilot, who was a super pilot, took the wrong interpretation of what was said and proceeded to take off when the runway wasn't clear. And this talking back to authority is part of what's called crew resource management, which is one of the really important human factors. So to go back to what Kelly was starting with, the R community is friendly and supportive, and the human factors, I think, are quite important for the success of, for the past success, the present success, and the future success of the tech community. It's not just a technical thing, the human factors are really important.
Before I go, because I do have to go because I have another meeting, I just really want to thank all of you for providing an environment where somebody that does not have a computer science background or a mathematics background, I feel comfortable sharing thoughts and ideas. And it's been really nice to feel like when my colleagues ask me questions that I don't have the answers to, that I have a resource that's friendly and allows me to say stuff that might be way off base just because of my lack of knowledge. And like I said earlier, I'm a bit of a dabbler in many things and not an expert in really anything, I feel. But it's been a really great experience thus far. And I just want to thank you.